Hi friends, thank you so much for being here. Today's video, we are wrapping up the end of the year by going over my 2023 favorites and seeing, are they still here? Are they still my favorites? Am I still using them? I've got a bunch of goodies here, and spoiler alert, some of my 2023 favorites are not even in the picture anymore, so it's been really interesting to look back and see how my makeup tastes have changed and just the types of products that I'm reaching for now compared to a year ago. If you want to know all the tea about last year's favorites and where they are now, then let's go. Last year I started off with eyes. I'm also going to start off with eyes, but that definitely has changed in my routine. Nowadays I do my full base routine except for lips, and then I go in with the eyes, and then I finish off with the lips, and then I'm done, just because this year has not been the year for eyeshadow for me. And I said last year that I will forever be using my Milani eyeshadow primer, and this has been a favorite of mine for probably 8 years, so that definitely was true. This is still my favorite drugstore eyeshadow primer. However, now it is more so my Kokie concealer, and then I will just set it with either my Hourglass translucent setting powder, and more recently I've been going in with my Prime and Stay just because I'm trying to finish this for Project Pan. But for the sake of today's video, I am going to be going in with the Milani one, but honestly, it's not that this one isn't a favorite anymore, because I do still highly recommend it and think it's a great eyeshadow primer, but this one doesn't cover up any of the discoloration or veins or even out the skin tone on my eyelids, so that's why I've been opting for that concealer instead. I had several categories for eyes, so I'm just going to go over all of them at once, and then we'll build the look. For eyeshadow palette, I chose the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude, which is definitely still a favorite. However, this leans super cool toned on my medium olive skin tone. I reached for this one just because of all the shimmery shades and the topper shades. And then for single eyeshadow, I chose ColourPop Ritz, which is definitely still a favorite. However, right now, I would definitely choose a different single eyeshadow as my favorite. For liquid liner, I had the Huda Beauty Life Liner, which has the smallest, teeniest, tiny little eyeliner tip ever, and I used to use this all the time for my inner corner. A couple of things have changed with this one. I'm not gonna lie, I've barely touched this over the past 6 months just because I'm not really doing the inner corner as much, and it takes extra time to do a wing with this one because the tip is so small. And then for pencil liner, it is my LA Girl Blackout, which is getting to the butt. Really exciting for Project Pan. Keep an eye out for Project Pan. I am going to be doing an update in a couple of weeks, and I still use this all the freaking time. This is my favorite black kohl eyeliner, gel eyeliner ever. I also had a category for eyeshadow stick. I had chosen the Milani Gilded Eyeshadow Stick in Sand. Unfortunately, I have since decluttered that one, not because it's not a good formula, simply because, once again, eyeshadow has just not been the focus of my makeup. It's really been more about complexion and cheeks this year for me. So I have decluttered just like a lot of eyeshadow sticks, a lot of eyeshadows, because I'm simply not using them. But that one is still my favorite drugstore shimmery eyeshadow stick formula. Today I'm going for a smudgy halo eye, and then I want right in the center something really sparkly. So going in with my LA Girl Shockwave eyeliner, I'm gonna start sketching out the shape that I want for this halo eye. This is a Sigma Smudge E21, just a really nice small smudging brush, and I'm going to start blending out those edges. Taking an LBE6, this is a smudge brush from Lunar Beauty, going into the darkest matte in I Need a Nude, which is called Silhouette. And I'm just gonna go right over that black and start to smoke out the edges. And I want this look to be strictly confined to my lid. I'm not gonna go above my crease at all. To help blend these edges a little bit more, I'm taking an e.l.f. crease brush, a very pinpointed little brush, going into the shade Stone. Even though this might not be my favorite color story on my skin tone, these mattes blend themselves. If you have never tried Natasha Denona and you've been interested, I definitely don't think you'll be disappointed. It is the easiest formula to work with, and across multiple palettes, her formula is also very consistent. On a Sigma E54, this is a packing brush. I'm going into the lightest matte called Fair, and I'm gonna brighten up this center part of my lid. Now going into my ColourPop Ritz Super Shock eyeshadow. This is still, hands down, one of my favorite eyeshadows of all time. I think it will just always be a favorite. Like, it is so magical. It's that perfect topper shade. And these are only like $6. Like, you seriously cannot beat this Super Shock formula. Just to be dramatic though, I am gonna go into this center shade called Muse. I've spoken about this shade several times on my channel because just like Space Cowboy, this is such a beautiful reflective shade. It's one of my favorite eyeshadows of all time. Honestly, I reach for this palette simply because of Muse. So I'm just gonna put that right on my lash line in the very center for some added shine. This is what the eyes are looking like before lashes. For lashes, I mentioned the Remy 778s, which are still one of my favorite strip lashes of all time. These basically go with any look and they're so easy to put on. I will say this year for me has not been about the strip lash. I have not applied a strip lash in months, and when I do, I honestly really struggle. I've been going for the underneath the lash adhesives that just stick and you squeeze them together like the Kiss Impress Falsies ones. So I definitely wear those way more than a strip lash, but I will attempt to put these on off of camera and I'll be right back. These lashes are making me want to wear strip lashes again, but specifically these ones, because even though I'm months out of practice, that was so easy to do and I forgot just how flattering these are. Moving on to base, I have a primer pick, which is funny because this year I definitely changed my preference for no primer at all for the face, but last year it was the e.l.f. 4% niacinamide Power Grip Primer, which I'm almost through with, so this definitely was a favorite. I have discovered that I am just not a fan of these grippy primers anymore. I don't know if it's because I have a lot of texture on my skin, but I always find that these are super finicky with the application. Like, I have to let them sit, but I can't let them sit too long. Otherwise, once I go on with my foundation, then it starts to look patchy. And this is water-based, so with certain foundations that are oil-based, it doesn't work well. So I actually never, very rarely, go in with a face primer. Next is foundation, and I chose the Rem Beauty Foundation, which I have been getting back into. I've used quite a bit of this foundation. It's kind of hard to tell, but I'm pretty sure I'm at least halfway through this foundation. This is still one of my favorite foundations of all time. However, I will say this year I did steer away from this one just because I was going for lighter coverage products. But also the thing with this one is it doesn't grip to the skin as well. In conjunction with the e.l.f. primer, it does a really good job. I'll get like a good 10 hours out of it. But without a primer, it's not transfer proof. So if you're like touching your face a lot, or if you're putting a napkin to your face, this foundation is going to come off. Even if you set it, it's going to come off a little bit. So in comparison to a lot of other formulas, this is not the longest wearing foundation. It's definitely not transfer proof. But if you want a beautiful skin finish that's not drying, that's not going to be cakey, if you're just going to an event for a couple of hours or like a dinner or something, this foundation is amazing. A huge thing that changed in my makeup routine compared to last year is brushes. I rarely use a sponge. I almost never use a sponge, which for me used to be unheard of just because I do have dry skin. This is also the best foundation match I've ever found in any foundation skin tint ever. I use the shade Medium 7N. I will list everything down below. If you've been here a while, you already know what the concealer is going to be. I honestly haven't used this one in probably 6 months. It is part of my Project Pan, and I'm basically done with it. And I've just found concealers that I like better. This is the Physicians Formula Butter Glow Concealer. It is still my favorite concealer at the drugstore. However, like overall, it definitely goes to the Tower 28. Ironically enough, this one became too hydrating and too slippy ever since I discovered the Tower 28 one, which has this very dewy, serumy consistency, but the way that it blends out and sets down is more self-setting and a little bit more thin than this one, and it just wears way better than this one. So ever since I discovered Tower 28, my standards have just risen and changed. The finish and the way that this one blends out is still so good. So if you have dry skin, if you want a super glowy medium coverage concealer that just blends out seamlessly and looks natural and like your skin, I definitely still recommend this one. While we wait, I'm going to go ahead and start on the cheeks. So my highlighter pick is still a highlighter that I use. I recently took it out of my rotation to force myself to use other things, and it is the Rare Beauty Liquid Luminizer in the shade Mesmerize. This is the pinky rose gold shade, and this highlighter is absolutely stunning. If you love a no makeup or a highlighter that looks very polished but soft, like not blinding, not texture enhancing at all, you would really like this liquid highlighter. I will say though, and just like I said in last year's video, I have to apply it before any other cheek products because it is almost so oily that it will disrupt other things. So that's why I go ahead, put this on first, let it set down a little bit, and then I'm safe to put other products on top. But the glow that it gives is truly special. It is unlike anything I've ever tried. It is still in the rotation. I still use this quite often, specifically in the summertime or when I want something that's less dramatic. For bronzer, this one took quite a turn because my favorite from last year turned into a product that I low-key hate. I have since decluttered this one, and I used to love the Halo Glow contour ones. I use the medium shade, and that one was really good when I first got into it. On my channel, I was recommending it, and then I don't know what happened, but a couple of months, you know, sitting in my collection, it seemed like the formula changed and started to separate or get a little bit oily, and then it just became so patchy and I just could not make it work. So unfortunately, I do not recommend that one anymore. It's just a little bit too finicky. Sorry, I have a cat hair. So for today, I'm going to go in with my go-to combination right now, which is starting off with the Milk Makeup Contour Stick in the shade Stoked. Unfortunately, I cannot twist this one up. Milk Makeup, seriously, you need to fix the component in these because half the time they don't freaking work. So that is a little bit annoying. But right above the line of my ear, I will just place some right there. And my favorite brush to blend out my cream contour is the Complexion Duo from e.l.f. And I like to lay my brush kind of flat to my skin like this, and I blend in the same angle of my ear. So the top of my ear kind of points down. I blend in that exact same angle, but I keep the pigmentation still very close to the back of my face. Before I go in with my powder bronzer, I'm going to finally blend this concealer out. You can seriously let this one sit under the eyes for several minutes. And personally, that's what I like to do, just so that I maintain the coverage and that it's not too runny. This concealer is still tea. I'm reminded of why this was like the only concealer I would wear for such a long time. Before, I would go ahead and set my concealer as soon as I blend it out, but nowadays I do all of my cheek products and then I set my concealer at the end. Next, I go in with a powder bronzer before blush, and normally I use my Rem Beauty Hypernova Satin Matte Bronzer in the shade Blaze, but I got this Nabla one during the Ulta Beauty Black Friday sale, so I've been testing this one out. For blush, this one's kind of funny because I almost never wear this blush anymore, probably because it's a powder blush, but last year I chose the Essence Pure Nude Baked Blush in the shade Rosy Rosewood. I still think this is a really nice baked formula. If you like baked blushes, if you like powder blushes, this is a beautiful formula that's not glittery, that's super smooth, it's not too pigmented. It's just a really good, cheap baked blush. However, I am just never going to be a powder blush girly. I definitely got more into powder blushes this year, specifically when the Rem Beauty blushes came out, but it will just always be cream. So even though I don't really use this one, I still think it's a really nice blush, and it gives a really nice pearlized, soft, glowy sheen to the cheeks, which I like. But is this still a favorite? No. Now going in with powder. Like I said before, it was the One Size Translucent Setting Powder, which has been replaced by other powders. I'm not gonna spoil my favorite powder of the year. It might come as a surprise though, but last year I always used to set my under eyes with the Real Techniques setting brush. I still use this all the freaking time. This is my favorite setting brush. However, I do opt more for a powder puff, specifically these mini powder puffs from e.l.f. You can get a pack of 3 for only $6, so super affordable. Very squishy, basically the same as the little heart ones from Huda Beauty. Admittedly, this has become my least used powder, which is crazy to think because over the past, it feels like almost 2 years, this has been my #1 powder, and I definitely still use it, especially in the summer. But underneath the eyes, it does seem to be a little bit heavy for me these days. So I rarely use it underneath the eyes, but it is still such a flawless, smoothing powder. You can see the clear difference between this side and this side. Definitely the trend in today's video is that it's not that I don't like these products anymore. A lot of them I still recommend and I do enjoy from time to time. It's mostly my technique has changed and my preferences for products has changed. I'm gonna go to eyebrows and then we'll finish eyes and then we'll set the face and then we'll do lips. So for eyebrows, unfortunately, my pick from last year is from a brand that doesn't exist. The product is discontinued and it was the Transluce Clear Brow Gel, which was such a ride or die for me. I still really think that brow gel was so tea. However, Transluce is no longer a brand, unfortunately, but that's okay because I love my Rare Beauty Laminating Brow Gel tenfold compared to this one. This is just now my ride or die. Nothing compares to this. It's not crunchy. It flattens the hairs all the way down to the skin if that's what you want, and it will have them there no matter if you're sweating, no matter if you're swimming. This is just so good. I am gonna go in with my Lifeliner and attempt to do the inner corner wing. Pray for me because it's been a really long time. Okay, this is kind of scaring me because it deposited like a buttload of product, I think. It's kind of leaking. Yeah, you can see the product has kind of like bunched up there. So, ooh, this is also not a favorite anymore. I just think the KVD Tattoo Liner is forever going to be my favorite eyeliner for the inner corner because it never bleeds. It's never too liquidy. It's just the right consistency, and it is very budge proof. So before I ruin this really nice eye look, I'm just gonna put this away and we're gonna go on to mascara. For mascara, this is probably the only product that I don't have in my collection that I really wish I did, and it is the e.l.f. Lash and Roll Mascara. That mascara is the best mascara I've ever tried for the lower lashes, even more than my favorite mascara all around, which is the IT Cosmetics Lash Blowout. I have gone through probably at least 4 or 5 of these that I can recall, so this has definitely not replaced, but it's just the mascara that I have been using solely. But I do want to repurchase the e.l.f. Lash and Roll because that one is way better than this one for the lower lashes. Actually, before I do my lower lash mascara, let's talk about setting spray because I don't want to do it the other way around. So last year, it was the Cali Ray Surf Proof Setting Spray, which is an amazing setting spray. It basically does it all. It doesn't really change the finish of your makeup, but it feels like a mattifying setting spray, but it doesn't mattify the skin. It just melts all of like the liquids and powders together and makes your skin look super smooth while also helping it last like 10 plus hours. I still love that one. However, my ride or die has become the Ulta Beauty setting sprays. I'm super picky with ingredients, and these are the only drugstore affordable setting sprays that don't have fragrance, essential oils, or alcohol. You know how rare that is? That's like basically impossible to find. I love both of these. For the summer, I prefer the Matte Veil, but for winter, I've been going into the Dewy Glaze setting spray, so I'm gonna go in with this one. That the mist is so fine. You're not going to get large water droplets or anything. While that settles in and dries down, I'll go ahead and talk about my lip favorites. Starting off with lip liner, last year I chose the Rare Beauty Lip Liner in Wise, which unfortunately I just retired. I was hoping I was going to make it last till this video, but I've just been using that one to bits, and I finally ran out the other day. So unfortunately, I don't have that one. I spoke too soon earlier about the e.l.f. mascara. The Rare Beauty Lip Liner is also another product I no longer have in my collection that I desperately want back in my collection. And the shade Wise is the perfect neutral brown for every day, especially if you're my skin tone. But since I don't have that one, the closest thing that I have to that is my poor little sandy brown. Honestly, I think this is going to be one of the last times I'm able to use this one before I have to retire. This is not my favorite lip liner, not what I would choose for the best of 2024, but it is the closest in shade to the Rare Beauty one. So I'm gonna go in with this today. You guys, I cannot make this up. Luckily, I was able to actually line my lips before this happened, but yeah, she's given up. It just completely fell out of the component. I could sharpen it more, but when it gets down to this point, it's not worth it. So this is a little preview for my Project Pan. I've officially retired my sandy brown. To finish off the face, we have 2 more categories. So we have a matte lip category and then a glossy lip category. Last year, I chose the About Face liquid lipstick in Not Your Baby, which I do still have, but I recently decluttered this from my collection along with almost all of my liquid lipsticks because I am just not a liquid lipstick girly. I fully accepted that. I'm always going to be a gloss girly first and foremost. But I've also been getting back into bullet lipsticks, specifically getting into like the trend of the shiny bullet lipstick where it's almost like just like a tinted balm in a bullet lipstick form. Not to say that this is a bad formula, because this is my favorite liquid lipstick formula. If I'm going to wear one, or if I had to choose a formula, it's going to be the About Face ones. They are super thin, and you can layer them on top of themselves. Like if you need to reapply throughout the day, you can layer them over and over again, and it's not going to bunch up or emphasize the texture of your lips or get like crumbly like a lot of liquid lipsticks. They also smell kind of like lemony, which is a little nice. Also, just don't love this color on me. I used to wear more like cool toned mauve-y colors, purpley colors like this all the time. They used to be my favorite, but now it just looks weird. The way that I perceive myself now, it just looks like a little bit off. But for my glossy lip pick, this is definitely still a favorite. I use this all the freaking time, and it is the NYX Fat Oil in Mist Call. It's a lip oil, but it's basically a lip gloss. These are so hydrating, super juicy, but they're not goopy, they're not stringy, they're not too thick. And this shade in Mist Call is exactly the kind of lip color that I go to these days. I love a sheer red. I love a sheer like berry. Anything that's a tint of red or pink is just what I go for. So here is the final makeup look using what I had left from my 2023 favorites. And I think this slays. I love this look. It's definitely not my normal. I feel like compared to last year, I am very basic with my makeup, barely anything on the eyes, really focusing in on like the lips and the cheeks. I'm really glad I did this video. It was super insightful and interesting to see how different my makeup tastes, and the way that I do makeup now has changed, and a lot of the products that I used to love, I just don't love anymore or kind of hate now. So that was really interesting. I would love to know your thoughts down below. If you want more videos like these, get ready with me's tutorials, reviews, and other makeup things, then like, comment, subscribe. I'm sending you guys so much love and light, and I will see you in the next